go. Hi, everyone. I see my video was on. Hi, guys. Can you hear me? Hi, I didn't realize the link had worked. Hi, Kenza. I was messaging her to say I'm not able to get on, but I see that I was just sitting here. Hi, everyone. Welcome. I'm sorry I'm a few minutes late. Nice to see a bunch of you here with us. All right, I have to warn you that you might hear some strange sounds in the background, and this is because I have a little puppy, and she's decided to be very hyperactive. So if you hear someone chewing a bone, it is a little tiny brown Labrador dog sitting next to me. Oh, and I see Selma's cat says hi too. Hi to your cat, Selma. All right, guys, well, let's go ahead and just get started right away then. I am going to put on my presentation once I get it connected. Let's see. All right. Tell me, are you guys seeing what I'm seeing? Do you see the presentation? Hi, Fareed. Yes, I see thumbs up emoji. Awesome. All right, you guys. So tonight is the second installment of our February masterclass series, all about applying to jobs in English. So last week we did resume writing, and this week we're doing crafting a cover letter. This is the program. This is about the course. So these courses are online. They're going to be every Monday and Thursday night in February. So this is number 2 for a total of 6. And the classes will be from 7 to 8:30. So we're starting a little bit late. So we'll also go a little bit late after 8:30. And these are recorded. So these classes are recorded and they will be published on our channel on YouTube, which you can see is in the slide American Institute-DZ. These classes are free and open to everybody, any age, although of course, since they're all about applying for jobs, it's really geared to those of you who are interested in looking for jobs in English-speaking companies, in embassies, abroad outside of Algeria, although I'm happy to see that there are so many current companies coming to Algeria or operating in English in Algeria also. All right, so this is me. My name is Ariella Knight. I am the founder and CEO of the American Institute in Algiers. We are a language school and a cultural center here since 2022. I am an American. I'm originally from Boston, but I have been teaching English and living in Algeria since 2018. And I'm very happy to be offering this masterclass with all of you today. One of the topics I'm most passionate about is professional development for those looking to enter the English workforce or to enter a professional English world. So this is the overview of the course. You can see that we have a total of 6 sessions. So last week we did crafting an impressive resume. Tonight we're doing crafting an engaging cover letter. And then after that, we're moving away from the sort of written application pieces into some more soft skills. I'm really excited about this. I hope you guys will join us for effective networking, or how to use networking to get jobs, how to master job interviews, how to navigate the complicated job search process, and how to negotiate job offers and close the deal once you do have an offer in front of you. So everything we're going to talk about today is cover letter. There are a few rules. We can call these course rules. We can also call these house rules. There are only 3 of them, and usually there's no problem from you guys. We have a really lovely time. There's a lot of engagement in the chat, so I don't expect to see anything different tonight. But the 3 rules are stay appropriate. That means no swearing, nothing that you would not actually do in an in-person English class, because even though we're online, this is still a classroom. I am still your instructor. And so I ask for a level of professionalism in the chat and how we communicate with each other. The second is to stay on topic. So tonight is cover letters. I'm really here for your questions. I'm excited to see what kind of questions you have on cover letters, what experiences you have had. We have polls, we have open questions for you to respond to. Sometimes we even invite you guys to contribute on audio. But when you're contributing, please do stay on topic. Even if you have a cool link to share, this is not exactly the place for that. We do have, you'll see two people here. You have me on the screen and a co-host named Ariella Knight. That is actually my associate, Kenza, who is here to moderate to make sure that we all have a wonderful learning experience. And the last one is participate actively, which is something I already spoke to. So participating in the polls and asking your questions and making sure that you're getting the most out of this. That you're dedicating an hour and a half to come to this course. So you're getting something out of it, you're learning, you're getting your questions answered. All right, this is our agenda for today. So we have 4 things that we're going to be talking about. Number 1, the importance of a compelling cover letter. And in that, we'll also be talking about what even is a cover letter, how to structure a cover letter, what format to use, the order, the expectation of what needs to be included. And then we'll be personalizing your cover letter for specific roles. And last, we'll talk about how to showcase your motivation and your fit for a position in the cover letter. So let's get started. Before we begin, I always like to know who is in the virtual room with us. I know some of you guys are watching on the live stream. Unfortunately, I don't have a way to poll you, but marhaba bikum, even if you're on live stream. But for those who are in the Zoom, we're going to launch a few polls to see what you already know about cover letters and what kind of questions you have, and also where you are in your own careers, if you're just starting out or if you've been working for a decade already or somewhere in between. So Kenza, can you go ahead and launch the first poll, please? All right, so you guys should see this on your screen. I'm going to give everyone about, let's say, 30 seconds, 45 seconds to respond. All right, good. I see a lot of people answering. 56 people answered. We're up to 60. 10 more seconds, guys, if you want to participate. The question is, how many years of professional experience do you personally have? There's no wrong answer. This is simply so I know who's in the room with us and I can provide the most appropriate advice tailored to you. All right. So I think I'm going to put an end to it there with 71 answers. So 36% of you. Actually, I think we can share the results. Can you guys see the results in front of you also? I think it should share. Okay, I'm getting thumbs up. Awesome. Some yes, some no. More thumbs up. Okay, great. So 36% of you are saying, I don't have any professional experience, which is totally fine. Okay, this could be that you're in university, that you're in your first year, you're in your bachelor's, you're in your master's. It could even be that you're in high school, or maybe you're not studying. Maybe you're taking some time off. You finished a very elaborate study and now you want to take a pause. All of these things are completely fine. And I'm happy to have you with us, ready to see what the cover letter can do for your professional experience. Next, we have 17%, actually in 2 categories. So 17% have been working for 1 to 2 years, and 17% have been working for 3 to 5 years. So that's, I would say, sort of an entry-level professional, where I think the cover letter matters at every level, but definitely when you're entry level, you're starting to think very strategically about your career, where you need the cover letter and how you can improve it to start to put your career in the direction that is important to you. The last one is we have about 30% of you here have 6 years or more experience. So welcome, because I'm also in this category. I have 6 years or more experience, and I'm also still often thinking about the right way to talk about my experience for the right job. Okay, let's go to the next question. Kenza, please. We have one more. I think we have 2 more poll questions coming up. Let's see if we can get number 2. Oh, maybe these results were not shared with you guys. Okay. Hold on one second. Kenza, can we get the next poll coming up? I don't know when it's possible to, I'm not sure how it's possible to do it. Sorry, guys, technical difficulties. And I do see that some of you, while we wait for the next poll to come up, I do see that some of you are asking questions in the chat. Here's the next question, but I'll finish what I was saying, which is I see you guys asking questions in the chat. I love it. Please send me your questions. Every once in a while, when there's a good moment in the presentation, I'll take a second and I'll look through and answer questions. And I also see some of you engaging with each other and trying to answer those questions and having a discussion. That's great. I really want this to be just like a regular classroom where you can talk to each other. You can imagine you're in a small group and discuss things amongst yourselves, and then I'll come and give my own answer in a little bit. All right. So the next poll is, how important is it to address the cover letter to a specific person? All right, so how important is it to address the cover letter to a specific person? So this is a scale. So at 0, we say it's not very important. And at 5, we say it's very important. All right, I'm going to give you guys another 10 seconds or so to answer this one. How important is it to address the cover letter to a specific person? Okay. So we have, I'm going to put an end to it. I'm going to share the results. Can you see the results on your screen? Yes. Okay, good. So about half of you said it's extremely important to address the cover letter to a specific person, and it goes down from there. So another half of you put like middling importance, and then about 10, 13% said it's not that important to address the cover letter to a specific person. So we will come back to that once we start the lesson. This is a question of, is it okay to say dear hiring manager, or should we try to address it to exactly the name of the person who's doing the hiring? All right, so I'm going to keep you in suspense while we finish the polls, because we have, I think, just one more. Oh, no, we have 2 more. So here's the next one coming. You should see it on your screens now. Have you ever written a cover letter? Just in your life, have you ever written a cover letter before? Again, we'll do 30 seconds. Have you ever written a cover letter? It's really just a yes or no. It doesn't mean that you always write a cover letter. Just have you ever written a cover letter? All right. Awesome. I think we have almost everyone here. So I'm going to put an end. Let's share results. So in this group, we have about 55. We have exactly 56% of you have written a cover letter before, and 44% of you have not. So really, I'm going to round this out and say keef. We have half. Well, not keef because the experience is different, but that if you're in this Zoom and you're saying, am I the only one here who hasn't written one? No, a lot of people here are coming because they actually have not ever before written a cover letter. And other people are here who have written a cover letter, but who are saying, I have something to learn. I want to make sure if I'm doing this right. I'm not getting responses to my cover letter. What can I do to improve them and make sure that they are more successful in the future? Good. All right. So the last one we're going to do here is, what is the hardest part of cover letter writing? Okay, hold on. What is the hardest part of cover letter writing? You should see it on your screen now. I see some of you saying, I don't know what a cover letter is. That's fine. You can watch the poll or you can participate, but the very first thing we're going to go into is, what is a cover letter? But knowing that a lot of you come with a base level of experience anyways, we're going to start with, for those who have written a cover letter before, what is typically the hardest part for you? So what is the hardest part? We have number 1, making sure the English is correct. So that's just English language skills. How do I make sure that I'm using the right adjectives, that I'm using the verbs correctly, that I'm not making a grammatical error, that I'm not messing up my punctuation, for example. The next is the format. How do I actually design the cover letter? The third is knowing what experiences to include. And the last is connecting my experiences with the job that I'm applying for. So let's end the poll here. And I will share the results. Okay, so it looks like the most popular, or I would say the most common problem, is connecting experience with the job in a cover letter. After that, in place number 2, we have making sure the English is correct. I mean, I just have to stop here and say that it's already unbelievable that this is a full room of Algerian English language speakers who probably speak more than just Algerian Arabic, maybe also speak Kabyle, or maybe you also speak French. And not only have you learned enough English to follow this Zoom class, but you're also at a level where you can write a professional document in English. So I know that in these moments of applying to jobs and writing cover letters, sometimes our confidence can take a hit and we feel like, I don't know the right words, I don't know the right grammar, and we can feel extremely stressed. But I want you to take a second and feel proud of yourself that you're even at a point where you are attending a master class for applying to jobs in English, and that you have the English level, or you soon will have the English level, inshallah, where you can complete your jobs and pursue your careers in a language other than the one you grew up speaking. Me personally, I'm not doing that. I grew up speaking English and I work in English. So just know that there's one person who is very proud of all of you guys willing to tackle this challenge. And I understand that you have an added level of stress, not just how do I make my experiences relevant, how do I show people I'm a good candidate for the role, but also the linguistic barrier. So be gentle to yourself, be kind with yourself. You have a big challenge, but I know that with our master classes, with online resources, with AI, it is super possible to send a grammatically flawless cover letter, get the interview, and get the positions you're looking for. So let that be a little bit of motivation as we go into the class tonight. So for those of you who are wondering why we do these polls in the beginning, it is because I want to get to know who's in the room with me. I also want to start to test the water to see how much you know about the topic that we're going into. So now let's jump into the most basic question. I think someone on here, I'm forgetting your name, but I saw in the chat said, I can't answer this question because I don't even know what a cover letter is. So let's start with the basics. Throw any answer that you have into the chat. It can be right, it can be wrong, it can be a guess. Write into the chat for me, what even is a cover letter? Let's see what you think. I can see the comments. I'm following the discussion. Write something for me in the chat. What is a cover letter? Is it a piece of white paper that says your name on it? Okay, good. Jabari says, well, it's a letter. Good, we're gonna start with that. A cover letter is a letter. I see Raunuk saying it's a motivation letter. We can talk about this. Manel says it's a resume that includes our skills and experience. Someone else said motivation letter, a letter to support your CV. Melissa says it's a letter where you write your motivation for the job. Okay, Serene says a cover letter is a letter when someone speaks about you. Shaima says it's a summary of your resume, a description of the candidate with his motivations for the position. Sihem says it's a letter that you mentioned in your skills to convince the interview to hire you. I love the word convince. Dunya says a cover letter is a written letter to resume your skills. I'm going to give you a little English lesson here, which is to say that resume does not mean the same as it does in French. To resume is if I press pause on my TV show because I want to get more snacks, then I bring my snacks and I resume my show by pressing play. The word you're looking for is summarize. I'm going to put it in the discussion. To summarize, meaning to make something shorter. Oops, I didn't send it. To summarize to everybody. Good. Okay, great. So I think you guys generally have, some of you have a sense of what is a cover letter. Here are the things I want you to keep in mind for a cover letter. A cover letter is a formal written document. So I think it was Jabari who said a cover letter is a letter. Good, let's start with that. A cover letter is actually a written letter. It is addressed to someone. It is written with a greeting, I hope you're doing well. I hope this finds you well. And a closing. It is just like we're sending someone a letter in the mail, even though nowadays we're just attaching these as PDF files to emails. So it is a formal written document that explains why you are a good fit for a job. Okay, so it is in response to an opening. So let's say you want to work at, what's an example of a company? Ooredoo. Let's say you want to work at Ooredoo. The cover letter, well, you have to wait for a job opening. I mean, we can talk about that, but let's imagine there's a job opening. You are writing a letter explaining why you are a good candidate for that job. That's what it means to be a good fit. A good fit means you have the right personality, you have the right characteristics, but most importantly, it means you have the right qualifications and work experience. Truly, what you're doing is you're trying to connect what you've put in your resume with because we have a very hard time separating a cover letter from a resume. We think, listen, both of these are ways for us to describe what we've done. There's no reason to have two different documents. A resume just has bullet points. A cover letter has full sentences. Khalas. I do one thing in one with full sentence, one with bullet, I submit it. No. A cover letter actually serves a different purpose. It is an opportunity for you to tell a story about who you are as a professional and how your previous experiences will make you a good candidate. It's almost like showing a cause and effect. You have to connect your experience. So that could be your degree, your bachelor's degree, your master's degree. It could be your certifications if you have any sort of language skills. You connect these with what is in the job description. So when Ooredoo is asking for someone else to help at customer service, maybe they ask for a language skill. So in your resume, you say, yes, I speak French, Arabic, and English. But in your cover letter, you explain my ability to speak 3 different languages at a high advanced, near fluent level will allow me to meet the obligations of the job. It doesn't matter which person I'm in front of, I'll find a way to communicate. So you are taking what is in your resume and you are connecting it with what is in the job. It gives you an opportunity to tell that story. And in some ways, I know some people don't love this term, but it's kind of an American term, to sell yourself. You are self-marketing. You are explaining why what your experiences are make you an amazing person and a good candidate for the job. All right. So I think from what you're saying in here, everything that I read, you basically got it. Someone said the word, this is why I like the word convince, because truly I want you to think of cover letting as an exercise a little bit in self-marketing. I saw someone say the word sneak peek. Jabari says a cover letter is a sneak peek. Okay, so you're also putting a sense of character into it, a little bit of a personality. A resume, really, there's no space for personality in a resume. If you came to my class on Thursday, you'll know that I am a big fan of a super boring and plain resume, which means that the cover letter is a space for you to show a little bit more personality. This is where you can have maybe a little bit of humor. This is where you can have more of a personal touch. Not too much more, but a little bit of a personal touch. Okay, a cover letter is not. So we just talked about what a cover letter is. Let's talk about what a cover letter is not. A cover letter is not a rephrasing of your resume. You should not simply be taking something from your resume and rewriting it in the cover letter. You need to be what we call expounding, which means to expand, to elaborate, to provide details. So details in your cover letter should not exist in the resume. So the resume, the reason we call it a resume, actually, now that, well, of course we call it that because it's the French word, but I've told you the word to summarize in English. This is the equivalent. It's a summary. Well, the cover letter is not a summary. Of course, it's only one page, so you have to be selective about what you choose. But what you want to highlight, you can have 2, 3, even 4 sentences explaining why your previous work experience makes you a really good candidate for this job. In the resume, you cannot do that. A cover letter is also not an email or a short introductory paragraph. So what I see a lot, and I told you guys this in the last class if you're attending again, but I myself receive a lot of resumes and cover letters because I run an English language school. So people who want to teach or who want to work in the administration, they send me and they send my team applications for jobs. So I often find, well, I shouldn't say often, sometimes I find that instead of a cover letter, I receive a short introduction, either in the email or attached to the email, but it's not truly that sort of convincing. It's not connecting previous experiences. So oftentimes it will say, I'm a recent graduate, for example, I'm a recent graduate, I have 2 years experience, and I really want to work at American Institute. I'm really excited and I'm really passionate. Those are great things, but that is not a cover letter. That does not come in my letter format that I'm looking for. It does not explicitly connect what you did in your last job. I'm not against a short note. I love a short note when it comes with a cover letter. So it cannot replace. Of course, you might ask me the question, Ariella, is a cover letter absolutely required? I will say no, it is not absolutely required. But then if you ask me, how do I stand out? How do I make my resume, make sure someone reads it? How do I make sure that I'm truly considered for the job? My answer will be write a strong cover letter. So I know some jobs or some industries that rely less on cover letters, and these will be very technical industries where they require, let's say, a very high level certification. So if you have these certifications, if you are sort of a software engineer who can, write code in certain languages, okay, maybe they'll hire you on the resume or they'll do an interview based off of the resume. But for a lot of other jobs, and especially jobs that rely on soft skills, that rely on dynamics like teamwork, collaboration, prioritization, time management, these are the kinds of things that don't show up in a certification. So jobs that rely on those skills, I always recommend writing a cover letter. Okay, so a cover letter is not a rephrasing of your resume, number one, and a cover letter is not an email or a short intro paragraph, and a cover letter is not less than 1 page. If you are taking the time to write the cover letter, please try to fill 1 page. In fact, you want to make it look like you had to edit to make 1 page enough. I have so much to say, I have so much experience, but okay, I'll make it fit just 1 page. If you are lost for how to do that, I actually would recommend something like ChatGPT, because ChatGPT will give you so many sentences and so much. I mean, it will talk forever. So that's a good place to start. I would not recommend you copy paste, but you get inspired. We can talk at the end why I don't recommend copy paste. If you were here last week, we can answer questions on it, but essentially it's really, really obvious if you're copy pasting ChatGPT, especially if you're an English language teacher like myself. But you can use resources like this to inspire you to see how you can add more content and longer sentences, but please fill 1 page. Okay, good. Let's take a second before we go into this, and I'm going to look at the chat because I see a lot of questions coming in. All right, Miriam is asking, why don't we call it a motivation letter or a letter of motivation? So actually, these items are not substantially different in terms of their goal. A motivation letter and a cover letter are both, in both of these, you are asked to explain why you're a good candidate. The difference is actually largely the context. So jobs, we usually call this document cover letter. For universities, we usually call this document a motivation letter. In essence, they are the same. They are 1 page. Usually motivation letters are also only 1 page, and they describe why you're a good fit for what you're applying for. It's truly just the culture of those worlds. So in university culture, we typically call these documents a motivation letter, and we call these documents maybe, I saw someone else asking about a personal statement. So again, they're not substantially different in terms of what they are asking you to do, but when you're applying for jobs, you'll see that the language, the terminology we use is cover letter. And in the academic space, we never call it a cover letter. We only ever call it a motivation letter or a personal statement. Okay, I see two different people. I see Yusuf and I see Amel asking, what about someone who doesn't have any experience yet? How am I going to fill? I mean, you guys didn't say this, but I'm imagining sitting in front of you and you say to me, how could I fill one full page? All I have is a degree or maybe 2 degrees. Well, there are many things you can add to it, but part of my question will also, I will say part of my answer will also motivate you to perhaps try to gain some experience so that you can write a cover letter and a resume. So I will give you that answer first, and then I will tell you, but truly, if you don't have more experience, I'll tell you some tricks. But something to keep in mind is that most people, when they are hiring someone, yes, they want someone who has certain skills and they want to make sure that you can meet the job as described. But what I often say is that we are often looking to work with people who are not crazy. We just want to make sure that you're not going to be totally, as we say, out to lunch, which means not really present, that you will understand instructions when given to you, that you can get along with other people in the office, that you honor your word, that you're honest, that you come to work on time. All of these things are actually a big reason why we do the cover letter. It's not simply, do they have the skills that I need? That's more the resume. The resume is really like that hard skill assessment. The cover letter is, okay, but are they going to drive me insane, or am I going to enjoy having this person work for me? So the person who doesn't have any experience, yes, it will say, okay, they might not have the skill set, but it also might say, oh, they've never had a boss. They've never had a deadline. They've never, had a task given to them. So that's what I challenge you to do, to add activities to your lives, if possible, to show that maybe I've never had a job, but I volunteered. And when I was volunteering, we had a deadline and I reported to a project manager and I had a goal. And this is how I worked towards my goal. So these things that hiring managers are looking for, you don't find them exclusively in paid full-time work. If you're telling me, Ariel, I need to work, I can't join a volunteering association for 2 or 3 months and get more experience. Khalas, the moment is now, I need the job now, and I've only ever studied. Well, find ways to talk about your studies that highlight these soft skills and these assets. I always recommend that students talk about their thesis, their dissertation. This is a big project that you had a deadline that was far away, maybe 2 or 3 months. Explain how you met your deadline. You can say, I've always been someone who does their work ahead of time. In fact, I finished early, or I work very closely with my supervisor. I'm a big fan of strong communication with the people I work with. And don't be afraid to use verbs like work with when you're discussing an academic context, because you can say that you work with a supervisor on an academic project, and it will also help the person reading the cover letter treat you in a more professional way. So let's say I'm imagining, who was I just speaking with? Amal, saying 0 experience. I'm imagining that you are a university student. So you can talk about a big project. You can talk about, with a project, you can always talk about time management, prioritization, and deadlines. Those are 3 amazing things that every hiring manager will want to know that you can achieve. With any sort of group work that you've done, you can talk about collaboration, communication, managing conflict. Perhaps a conflict came up in one of the projects at your school, and you can explain how you helped resolve it. And then when you work with a supervisor or when you have any professor, there's hierarchy there. So you can talk about ways in which you worked with your professor or someone who was you were reporting to, similar to a boss, that demonstrates what kind of employee you would be. Saying, I was always the first to class. I always asked extra questions. If you were a delegate or had any other kind of responsibility in that framework, then bring that up as well. So whether or not you're able to get extra experience or you're using your basic experience from your school days, try to emphasize that you have certain soft skills that should pass that initial check. I know that as myself, someone who hires people and others who hire, the last thing you want is someone who's showing up to work. It's their first experience, but they've never really had a deadline. And so you're there teaching them, no, deadlines matter, right? That's starting really at beginning. It's really starting at the very beginning of professionalism. So show them that you have some professional skills that you've worked on. You could even mention some personal experiences. Let's say that you're the oldest child and you have many siblings. Let's say that you take care of your grandparents. Any examples, and they need to be tangible examples that you can give to demonstrate that you will be someone that learns quickly and that already comes with attributes, will go very far. Okay, I talked, probably for an hour about that because I'm very passionate about helping people just starting out on their career to not feel depressed. You have skills. You're not walking in from zero. If you are someone who says, actually, I don't have any skills, I've never had a deadline, I never really talked to my supervisor, I didn't resolve conflicts, I haven't developed my communication skills, then look for an internship. You may not be ready for that full-time job yet. It may not be time to enter an office environment that's extremely demanding. A lot of companies offer internships. Some companies don't offer internships publicly, but if you send them an email and say, can I intern for you, they might find a space. But that's also a question of self-awareness, knowing what you are ready for, knowing that you could say, like, I really have never had an experience of reporting to a boss. Let me try to just, get a small job at the shop down the street, selling clothing or selling something else. And that will teach me some skills. And as a benefit, I can put them on my cover letter. Okay. Oh, thanks. You guys are so sweet. Cheering me on as I talk for, I think, 5 minutes straight about how young professionals can start careers with confidence. Great. Yasmina asked the difference between a cover letter and a personal statement. This is similar to what I said with motivation letter. A personal statement accompanies an academic application. A personal statement accompanies an application for a scholarship or for an application to a university. I see Manal helping me answer questions. Thank you, Manal. Okay, Ranuk is asking, what is the maximum number of pages in a cover letter? 1. You only need 1. If you go over 1, maybe you think, oh, I have so much experience. It shows that I have more experience. But in fact, what it shows is that you don't have a strong editing capacity, because you should be able to edit your cover letter down to the most relevant experience for the job. And everyone else is sticking to 1 page, unless you're president or the head of a giant, I don't know, conglomerate company. There's no excuse, and it's not really tolerated to go over 1 page. All right, guys. Okay, there's a good question here from Waim, and then we can keep going, which is the email that you're sending with your CV attached, is this the cover letter? So I would say traditionally, no. Traditionally, an email is sent to a job, to a hiring manager, the HR department, and it has 2 attachments. 1 attachment is the cover letter and 1 attachment is the resume. And the email can be very short. Simply, dear whoever or dear hiring manager, please find attached my application for this job. I look forward to hearing from you shortly. Sincerely. It's a very short email that basically says in a formal language, I'm applying for this job. However, I've started to see more and more that people are just making their email the cover letter. They make their email where they do their convincing, where they do their discussion. I don't love it, and I will show you why. Because, wait, dramatic pause. It can't follow this format. So a cover letter is a traditional and formatted document. It typically looks like an actual letter, and you cannot replicate this format in an email. So I will accept an email cover letter. Okay, fine. I won't get too picky, even though I can be quite picky, but I will allow it. But truly what I like to see is someone who attaches a document to an email in this format. So we have, I think, 6 things in the format. We have the contact information, and there's actually usually 2 sets of contact information, your information and the information of the hiring manager. And that includes physical address, email address, phone number, at least for yourself. You can include your LinkedIn. And then usually we include the physical address of the person who we're applying to, like of the company where they're hiring for a job, even though it's kind of silly because it's in an email. But I think because we still have almost this attachment to a traditional letter format. Okay, so that's the date. And please date it. You should always have a date. Ironically, I see no date on our example. Do better than our example cover letter. You should have a date on your cover letter as well. Imagining that the cover letter as an independent document, a PDF, can be forwarded. So it can be detached, unattached, let's say, from the email that you send, and they sent it to someone else or they print it out. We want the cover letter itself to have a date. Yeah, sorry guys, do as I say, not as I do. So we have a salutation and a greeting. These are essentially synonyms. We have an opening paragraph, middle paragraphs, closing paragraphs, and then closing. So we're going to look at this more closely. So here's the top. So you can see the contact information that I'm referring to. This person decided to do kind of a fun format where they put their name, etc. There's like a green line. That is not necessary. Please don't walk away from this course thinking, oh, Ariella said I need a really cool designed format. No, that's against everything I stand for. I stand for basic is best. Black and white is best. However, the reason we chose this one, it's a good example if you want design, because I have to confess, my opinion is in the minority, and a lot of people, especially young people, want design or a little bit of personality. So here's an example of a little bit of personality. It's the maximum I would put. So she has one color, which is light green. It's not multiple colors. And she has little symbols. To me, this is already very designed. I personally, in my cover letters, would not use any colors. Yeah, Cecilia says you hate colors. I hate colors. Every time I do a professional workshop, I tell you guys, you don't get any bonus points for colors. But if your colors are weird or distracting or somehow they don't print out well, you can get minus points. So why risk it? Simple as that. But I realize I'm becoming an old fogey, which means an old person. And nowadays, especially with these fun design softwares, they're giving you all these fun colors. So keep in mind that if you do go for something more designed, keep it basic design. Like our dear Elizabeth Lynette. So you can see in her contact information, she's put a lot of different things. She's put her email, her phone number, where she's based, what city she's in, her website. So she personally has a website. Cool. If you don't have one, don't worry. She has a LinkedIn page. If you do not have a LinkedIn page, you need to make one when you're applying for jobs. And I think we can maybe talk about that. I think we'll be talking about that in our session on job search strategies. And then she has a Twitter account. So of these, the ones that are absolutely necessary are going to be her address. She only put Sydney, but I would recommend you put a full address, at least city and country. Her phone number, her email address, and then I would add LinkedIn as the necessary. And the others are if they're relevant for the job. So if you want to showcase a really vibrant Twitter, if you're very active, if it shows a sense of engagement in the job you want, sure, go ahead and include it. But don't include anything personal. This is not the space for a personal Instagram, for a personal Facebook, only things that are relevant to you as a professional. All right, then next we have the salutation. This comes back to our poll question, which is how important is it to have a personalized greeting? So I actually am around a 2. I think it is very slightly, it can be nice to have a personalized greeting. So when someone emails me an application and they say, "Dear Miss Knight," oh, I think, okay, they know who I am. That's good. I don't mind if they say "Dear Hiring Manager." That's my recommendation is "Dear Hiring Manager." I will tell you why I recommend it. Because if you make a mistake in the name of the person who reads it, it can affect you negatively. So if you have any doubt about the person who you're applying to, I really recommend you just use the formula "Dear Hiring Manager." I'm going to write it here with the comma, and hiring, the H, and manager, the M, are both capitalized. Okay. I've also seen dear human resources team, etc. Hiring manager. It accompanies everything that that person is. It's the person reviewing the applications. Even if they forward them along, they're still managing a hiring process. Now, let's imagine you're applying to a job at my school, and you don't know if Ariella is a woman or a man. So you guess, and I get an application to a Mr. Dear Mr. Knight. I'm really going to notice. Oh, well, okay. Not only, I mean, I wouldn't say I'm offended on a personal level, but not only is it a mistake, it demonstrates a lack of knowledge about the company and a lack of research, because it's quite easy to look me up online and find that information out. So that's one risk. Risk number two with making it personal is misspelling. Everyone notices when their own name is misspelled. That stands out really big, especially if it's someone who's from a different culture than you. And so the name is a lot longer than you're used to, or like my last name, Knight, that's extremely like British, classic British word with a silent K and the GHT at the end. And so when in doubt, if there's a hesitation or you're not sure if you're going to write it correctly, dear hiring manager. And what was the last one? So one is the Mr. versus Miss. The last one is about Mrs. So there is a bit of a culture shift happening around Mrs. I'm going to put this in the chat. When I say Mrs., I'm talking about MRS. So usually MRS, we use Mrs. when someone is married, and we use Miss, MS, when someone is not married. So when I get applications, which I often do, to the wrong one, I wonder, how do they know this, or how do they not know this, or why is this right, or why is this wrong? It feels nowadays, in today's professional world, it feels inappropriate to receive anything that implies marriage. Mrs. doesn't feel professional. Even if someone is married and it's a woman, I recommend Miss, MS. But there's another tripwire, which is, what if that person has a PhD? Then they're not Miss Knight, they're Dr. Knight. So I only bring this up to highlight that it's a minefield when you address a cover letter personally. The reason I don't think it's a negative thing entirely is because if you do it correctly, it does feel nice. It's like, oh, they did their research. Oh, they know I have a PhD. Oh, they must follow us. So it can give you those positive points. But if you even have the slightest doubt, it is really a shame to get a cover letter that has something that is incorrect right at the beginning, and in a way that's quite personal to the person receiving it, that I often recommend that you just go with Dear Hiring Manager. All right, my longest speeches tonight have been on Dear Hiring Manager and young professionals just starting their careers. You guys can see I have a real passion for applying to jobs, professional development. I could talk about it all day. All right, so now we're zooming in on the next part of the cover letter. This, I don't recommend you read it. I want you even just to kind of blur your eyes. We're not talking about the words. I just want you to look at the format. Okay, so after Dear Miss Johnson, we have two paragraphs. There's an opening paragraph in the beginning that does the service of simply introducing yourself and highlighting a few key things. And then down here, we're moving into our body paragraphs. This is the last page, and we have a closing. Thank you for your consideration. And we have a signature. When you are choosing a signature, you have to use a certain word, a closing word. You can do sincerely, you can do cordially, or you can do best. I will also accept best regards. My opinion on closing words or phrases is similar to my opinion on colors. Just keep it simple. There is no reward for finding a cool way to end. Me, I end every single one of my emails with best. Pick something you like and stick with it. Sincerely, cordially, best regards. I mean, I'm sure you can think of some more if you want, and you can add it into the chat, and I will reluctantly approve some or disapprove others. But my point here is, don't stand out with these. Don't use the greeting and the closing to stand out. Use the content of the letter to stand out. That's what you want them to notice. That's what you want them to remember. The reason for being boring in your format is so that who you are and the content of what you're sending them is what emerges. Aladine says, what about all the best? Yes, Aladine, I accept all the best. I do accept all the best. I also accept all my best. In fact, me in my boringness, I either say best, or if I'm feeling very emotional, I will write all my best, which of course on the other side doesn't feel very emotional. But for me, the difference is noticeable. So a normal email, if we're emailing, you'll find best, comma, Ariella. And if it's, welcome, we're happy to have you, or maybe a thank you email, you'll find an all my best at the end. Sarah is sending best wishes. I don't actually like best wishes. It feels too friendly, like we're friends, we're colleagues. I don't love it. Celia says regards. I like regards. Thanks, you guys. I'm happy you're liking this session. I feel like I have some other professional development, I want to say nerds in a positive way with me here, where we're really breaking down these little details. I see Ranuk best regards and Samah kind regards. Okay, I'm reluctantly allowing them, but why wouldn't we just say sincerely? What's the reason? Kind regards, okay, fine. Sarah is saying yours. I do not like yours. Yours feels too familiar. Cordially is good. Best regards. Again, that's my reluctance. You guys can take my advice or leave it. You can roll your eyes afterwards like, wow, this American lady is crazy about sign-offs and cover letters, and you would be right. All right, we're going to move forward because I see we're already at 8 o'clock. So who are cover letters for? So as we said, the hiring manager, they are for the hiring manager for a specific job. You won't necessarily know when you're submitting an application if you're sending the cover letter to a member of the HR team. That could be someone who it's their entire job is to read resumes and cover letters, whether it's for the engineering department or the accounting department or the public relations department. It's the same person reading them. Or it could be your future boss. A lot of companies, especially small companies, the person who wants or is hiring the employee is the one reading the resume. Or sorry, resume and cover letter. So you will not know when you submit who's actually going to be reading it. So I recommend that you imagine it is your future boss. Imagine that you are submitting this letter exactly in front of the person who will be managing you. So you are talking to someone who's considering a lot of candidates to work in their department, maybe to share their office, maybe to share confidential documents with. Maybe these are projects that they're really passionate about, they're excited about. Their work is, I hope their work is meaningful to them. For them, it's personal who they bring. And so imagine that that's the person reading the cover letter, and know that everything will be scrutinized, because they're doing that assessment that I talked about earlier, which is not just, do they have the skills, but also, frankly, will I like them? Will I want them in my office? Will I trust them with my materials? Will they care as much as I do about my projects? Lastly, you're introducing yourself and telling them why they want, nay, need you in their team, okay? This is not so much who is the cover letter for, but what is the point of the cover letter? So now I think we have another poll. Kenza, if you're here, let's see what polls we have left. I think we might have done them already. Okay, I think we did all the polls in the beginning, so we're going to keep moving. All right, next question for you guys. Should you use the same cover letter when you apply to different jobs? Type me your answers, please. Should you use the same cover letter when you apply to different jobs? I see yes, and I say no. I see it depends. It depends on the job, just like with the resume. Someone says, of course not. Someone says, depends. No, no, no. It depends on the type of job. Yes, if it's in the same field, it depends on the field. It depends on the job. It depends on the position. Oops. Kahina says, unless the jobs are exactly the same. LOL. I like that because which job is truly exactly the same? All right, we're going to go to my slide, but I don't know. It says, of course not. Interesting. And it also looks like it's animated. All right, so maybe saying of course not is a little bit harsh, but I want to go back to what Manel wrote in the chat. Was it Manel? Who said, unless it's exactly the same job. Because the cover letter, since you are connecting your experience to what is in the job description, it doesn't really serve the purpose if it's not connected to the job description. So in the scenario where the job is kind of copy paste, and let's say you're applying for, what were the examples? Let's HR. Maybe you want to work in HR and you see Ooredoo has an HR position and Jezi has an HR position. Maybe then the cover letter can be almost exactly the same because they're both telecommunications companies and it's the same type of role. But even in that scenario, which is the most likely scenario for me to approve, like, okay, do what you need to do, send it out. I know you're busy. Even there, you might actually find that the descriptions of those positions in the two companies is very different. Some companies have an HR manager that just handles internal paperwork for their staff. So that can be registering them for Social Security. That can be tracking their vacation, tracking their sick days, tracking any conflict resolution. Other ones might actually have an HR manager who is doing only hiring. They really only want you helping to fill the teams, meeting with different teams, understanding their hiring needs, making the application process much easier. So in one role, you'd be doing conflict resolution, mediation, dispute resolution. That's kind of a high-level task because you're in charge of making sure that people in the company can work together. At another one, they might say, we want an HR manager, but in our office, HR manager doesn't include dispute resolution. For us, we consider that a director level job responsibility. So you really do need to not just read the title of the job and look at the industry, you actually need to look at the responsibilities. And the sad thing is, even though it does take extra time, it's extremely noticeable because the person reading the cover letters, they know the job description by heart. They wrote the job description. They sat down, if it's a hiring manager from HR, they sat down with someone and said, tell me everything you need. They discussed, they debated, they set the budget, they set the salary. They are reading all these other resumes. So they know what they're hiring for by heart. So it is unfortunately very noticeable when your cover letter does not match what the job description has in it. This is yet another reason that I like to say that applying for jobs is quantity over quality. If you apply to 100 jobs using the same resume and the same cover letter, you will get less positive responses than if you apply to 3. But each one is a very well-written and extremely tailored document for those jobs. And I really like to encourage you guys to understand that this is truly a waste of your time. If you're not tailoring it, you shouldn't apply, right? Time is precious. Applying for jobs is draining. Thinking about our future is hard. Putting our hopes, getting excited. There's a lot that goes with it. It's not just attaching documents and hitting send. There's an emotional load that comes with applying to jobs. So if you are taking on that load, make sure you have the time to make it a really competitive application. All right, so we have 30 minutes left. I wanted to go through another kind of example CV to talk about how we can use what's in someone's CV in a cover letter. Unfortunately, this is what I talked about last week. We only have an hour and a half to do cover letters. And I could, if I wanted to, I could do, I don't know, 10 hours on CVs. Maybe 10 is too long, but if I was in a room with you and everyone brought the CV and we workshopped it, what you end up doing is editing the document line by line. So use this word here, use this verb here. And that is what you should do for cover letters. Don't get me wrong. That's exactly what the work is. It is line editing to make sure that you are represented accurately and well. But in this 1 hour and a half class with 100 people here in Zoom and however many on live, I'm going to try to do a version of that where you can see this example individual. I think we have Robert. Yes, we have Robert Williams with us. And we can see how he talks about or how he should talk about his experience, and hopefully it can help you guys. So Robert Williams is a product engineer working in drilling. So we kind of went for someone in that petroleum field because I know that that is a popular field in Algeria. There's a lot of openings in this field, but you'll have to bear with me because I have zero experience in this field. So for all intents and purposes, I'll just say we have an engineer. We have an engineer resume. We have 2 jobs, and we have a bachelor's and a master's. So this is someone he's going to apply as a senior engineer. And Melissa is a petroleum engineer. Welcome, Melissa. You can give me some good, maybe some good tips for next time we do these examples. So we have work experience, we have education at the bottom. I think these are just zoomed in. You can see that accomplishments, what we talked about last week in the resume writing is that you should be able to quantify your contributions either in numbers in the company, like helped X number of customers, X number of clients, or literal financial numbers. And so this guy is quantifying in finances, and we have the degrees. So now I want you guys to take a minute and read these 2 different paragraphs and tell me which introduction sentence is corresponding best to the CV and is best showcasing Robert, the senior engineer. Oh, we have 2 petroleum engineers. Oh, no, it's still Melissa. Okay, good. Melissa is a driller. Amazing. I suppose I could read these out loud as well. A or B, you guys? I see some A, I see some B. All right, I'm going to read them out loud so that you guys can keep thinking. A, dear hiring manager, I'm writing to express my interest in the senior engineer position at XYZ Engineering Solutions as advertised. With a proven track record of successful engineering projects and a comprehensive skill set, I am confident in my ability to contribute effectively to your team. That is A. B. Dear hiring manager, I'm reaching out about the senior engineer gig at XYZ Engineering Solutions. I'm a real go-getter and super passionate about engineering stuff. I'm totally the right fit for your team because, you know, I've got these unique skills and talents that are like amazing. My experience is like top notch and will totally change the game for XYZ Engineering Solutions. So the correct answer, I see we have a real debate. We have A is more formal, but some people say A is too formal, too impersonal. B has more bragging, and maybe that's a good thing. So I'm going to tell you off the bat that the better one is A. The reason for this is that B is not formal enough and uses very informal language. So we like A because Robert immediately identifies the position that he's applying for. I'm writing to express my interest in a senior engineering position, which B also does, but he uses a very informal word. What is the informal word? Instead of position, what does he say? Gig. Waleed says B sounds like he's applying for a sports team run by his friend. Exactly, which is something you don't apply for, right? Because it's run by your friend. So gig is not a formal word. Gig is a casual way to talk about a job or a position, okay? And then when we're going back to A, Robert is going to mention 2 things that make him a good candidate. And this is very important. I want you to notice outside of this comparison exercise, I always recommend in your cover letter, in your introduction paragraph, pick 2 things to highlight. Usually these are qualities. but they can also be experience. So what does he highlight? He highlights two things. This is kind of like the opener of the two main things that you should care about when you read my resume, when you read my CV. I'm waiting, guys. Tell me in the chat. Two things. All right. I see Khaled says a proven track record of successful engineering projects. Good. This is the first thing he says. So he is drawing the attention of the hiring manager to the fact that he has a track record. So he's basically saying, I have a lot of experience, and that experience has been successful. So this is a good line for people that are applying already with experience. Hey, in case you didn't notice in my resume, I've got 5 years of working in this field. Imagine that the hiring manager reads the CV first, reads the cover letter first. So they haven't even seen the CV. This is a way of highlighting that the best reason that you should hire me, or the reason I stand out from the competition, is because I've worked in this field before. What's the second thing? He mentions two things. I see, I think Walid, Khaled. Yes, Shaima, Asma, now you guys see it. Comprehensive skill set. So he's mentioning that he has both a proven track record and he has a comprehensive skill set. In this context, what does it mean, comprehensive? What does it mean, comprehensive? He has a comprehensive skill set. I ask this because comprehensive can have two different meanings. Okay, we have a guess. Is it about communication? Send me anything, you guys. Send me your guesses. What does it mean to have a comprehensive skill set? I see teamwork as a guess, good listening, a comprehensive skill set. Does it ring a bell with anyone? I see fast learner, related to the job, teamwork. So I'm happy that we have this example because this is a word that is often I would say, used because it's so similar to another word in French and it has two meanings. I think Manel has it. Manel says, does it refer to a wide range of abilities that a person has, like a diverse set of skills and knowledge that make you well-rounded? That's a great description. That's what comprehensive means. Comprehensive both means that you have a lot of something, like a lot of skills, and you have all the skills you need. So let's say you're applying for engineering. We'll have to ask Melissa, what skills do engineers need? But let's imagine that they need some kind of analytical skills, they need communication teamwork skills, they need technical skills. So if you have all three of these, you could say, I have a comprehensive skill set. I have skills, I have the full set of skills that you need for this job. And it does imply also that they complement each other. So when you bring me, I have the full package. I'm not just the technical engineer. I'm not just the project manager engineer. I'm not just the analytical mind. I have a comprehensive skill set in all of these areas. It's a really good word to use in resumes, definitely. But because it is commonly misunderstood in Algeria, you want to make sure that you're using it with someone who will understand. So applying for a job with a native English speaker, great. But in Algeria, I just want to caution you to be careful that most people think comprehensive means understanding, like a person who's understanding. But that's not relevant in this context. Okay, so good. So he's decided that he's going to focus on two things. So if you remember, he has this whole big resume. Look at him. He has over 1 million is mentioned, saved over 200,000 is mentioned. He has years of experience. He has many things that he could probably talk about. And when he chooses When you come over here to B, let's see. So we already talked about the first sentence. Gig is too informal. We have, I'm a real go-getter and super passionate about engineering stuff. So number one, I want to point out to you that he's mentioning too many things in the initial paragraph. You cannot mention every characteristic, in part because it diminishes them. If I tell you that I'm nice and I'm generous and I'm sweet and I'm responsible and I'm kind and I'm forgiving and I'm timely and I'm humble, what have you remembered? What has stood out to you? It just sounds like I'm listing every nice adjective I can find. This is why you have to limit yourself and you need to choose two, really guys, maximum two things to bring up in the beginning. They can be characteristics or they can be about your experience. So this person it's the same guy, but in scenario B, Robert is mentioning way too many things. He's mentioning he's a go-getter. He's mentioning passion. He's mentioning unique skills and talents, but without explaining what those are. And my experience is top notch. I mean, B is a little bit unrealistic because you would never actually write the word like, right? This is something that we do when we like speak. It's what we call a filler word. So that was supposed to be your clue that it's informal, but realistically, none of you guys would write this, I hope, in a cover letter anyways. So the real things to pay attention to is that he mentions too many things. He doesn't provide, the things he's mentioning sound disconnected, like he doesn't actually, it doesn't sound like they're real. Anybody can say they have talents. I have many talents. It needs to be something more connected with your resume to make it sound like you can justify it, and he's not formal enough. So let's move forward. Here are some tips. These are some 5 key tips to improve your cover letters. The first is to research and customize. So here's an example that we didn't use, but this is imagining that Robert continues to write a real killer cover letter. So he needs to show that he has researched the company he's applying to. This can be best understood as a why. It's very common to forget that in a cover letter, you're not only saying why you're a good fit, but you're also saying, why do you want the job? Why are you desiring to work here? This is especially important if the job you're applying for is not connected with your previous experience or your education. Maybe you, of course, engineering is a bad example because you really need the education. But if you think about my industry, I'm sure many of you guys didn't study English formally, but you speak English fluently or you speak a high level. So maybe you think, I'll apply to be an English teacher. You should tell me why, because you didn't study it. I don't know, is this a career for you? Is this a side job for you? What are your goals? How will this contribute to you reaching your goals? You need to justify why the job is relevant for you, or else I'll think, oh, they just are applying everywhere they can. They don't really care about this one. They don't really see it. It's not their priority. Clearly, their priority would be something else. So research and customize, and I'm adding to that, justify why this will help your career. You can see the example is, I'm particularly drawn to XYZ Engineering Solutions' reputation for cutting edge technology and commitment to sustainability. So you'll notice that Robert is bringing up 2 things that XYZ Engineering is known for. So he's demonstrating, hey, look, I've looked you guys up. I know what you're known for. I know what you're good at. And also he's flattering them. He's throwing a little bit of compliments. It's an amazing way to do the compliments, because if you just simply say, I love your company, it seems amazing, you guys are great, it looks like you're sucking up. So a great way to add some flattery is to explain what aspects of the company you're attracted to. I've always wanted to work in an innovative space such as yours, right? It's a way to sneak in a nice compliment, and that does work every time. People do want to be complimented. They just want to feel like it's within reason. The next is, and this should be an obvious one, but it stands repeating because sometimes this is not in the cover letter. You need to write what position you're applying for. Even if in the email, you say, I'm applying for the senior engineer position. Even if in the subject of the email, you write application engineer position. Even if the name of your cover letter file is application to senior engineer position, you are still required to put in the cover letter what you're applying for. The reason for that is that these are formal documents. And actually, this is probably somewhat familiar culturally, because something I learned when I opened a business in Algeria is that you have to write les demandes when you go to, let's say, administrative office. You know, dear director of, I don't know, Social Security office, please accept my documents. So this is the same idea that you need to kind of formally say what position you're applying for in the letter, even if you feel like it's super obvious. You need to edit and end, with a call to action. So the call to action is not, hey, you better call me back. Hey, you better contact me. Hey, you know, I have to hear, you know, you don't want them to feel like there's a sense of obligation, or that you're begging. I saw someone in the chat saying, you don't want to look like you're begging. Yeah, please do contact me. Simply, these are very formulaic sentences. And so we put one here that you can use. Thank you for considering my application. I look forward to the possibility of contributing to XYZ Engineering Solutions' continued success. I look forward to hearing back from you shortly. I look forward to answering your questions. I'm available for any questions you may have. Really, any version of I look forward to hearing from you is enough of a call to action. All right, we've got two more here. We have quantifying achievements and using action verbs. So these are a little bit longer, so stick with me, but we needed to have a long example in order to show how to fit them in. But similar to in a resume, how we suggest that you quantify achievements, quantifying in a cover letter serves the same purpose. It simply suggests that what you're saying is real. It suggests that you can prove what you say. So if you think about that example B a second ago, I have unique talents. It sounds like you don't have any talents, or your one unique talent is writing a cover letter about your talents. It screams like, I don't want to say fraud, but exaggeration. So you don't want the cover letter to seem like it's exaggerating. Of course, you're showing off, you're showing your best side, you're marketing or selling yourself, but you have to be honest. And so to make sure that what you say does not get misinterpreted or does not feel like you can't back it up, a quantification of what you're talking about is very helpful. So through this is the sentence, I'm going to read it. Through strategic optimization and implementation of innovative solutions, I have directly contributed to cost-saving initiatives, resulting in approximately $2.5 million in savings for my current employer. This is also very strategic because when you put numbers, it catches the eye. In the last session, I told you guys that the average CV may get 60 seconds of viewing time. So cover letters is similar, especially if the hiring manager is inundated and there's a lot of applications or they're understaffed. Numbers stand out from the page. This also is something that you should be prepared to talk about. So make sure that if you put a number in a document, if you get the interview, it's very common that they will ask about that. $2.5 million. Can you explain how you did that? Can you explain the breakdown? Is that over 1 year? Is that over 5 years? So because these are very, I'll say catchy things, the quantification or numbers, be prepared to talk about them in the interview. Next, use strong action verbs. So I'm going to read the paragraph, the two sentences we have here. In my current role, I have demonstrated expertise in project management, product design, and team leadership. I consistently delivered high-quality results, a dedication I will bring to XYZ Engineering Solutions. Basically, just use strong action verbs and shake them up. You want to use things like built, sustained, achieved, my actions resulted in, created. You want to stay away from did. I did this, and then I did this, and then I also did this, and I did another thing. You want something that's slightly more specific and also slightly more, I'm going to say grandiose. So without going into very flowery language, like these are still normal language, demonstrated, created, achieved, okay? But it's just a little bit more descriptive than did. All right, we're finally down to do's and don'ts. So we have 4 do's. Do showcase relevance, meaning you need to show why your application is relevant to the job. So that's about mentioning what in your CV is relevant to the job. So choosing what you bring up in your cover letter for relevance. Express enthusiasm. We haven't had a chance to talk about this yet, but your cover letter is your chance to show that you really want the job. It needs to be done in nice language. It can't simply be, I really, really want this job and I'm desperate, or I'm excited, or you're my favorite place, because that reduces the formality. So you need to formally explain your enthusiasm. Some good words for this are simply that I'm very enthusiastic. I'm eager. Eager is a good word. Sometimes I see the word zeal, which is a way of saying eagerness or excitement. You can say, I'm truly excited for this opportunity. You can emphasize the uniqueness, because if it's a unique opportunity, it means that I don't have this excitement for other jobs, but I'm excited for this unique opportunity. I'm going to put this, I feel like I should put these phrases in the chat for you guys, because cover letters are often made up of formulas. You don't have to invent new phrases. It needs to be about you. It needs to be honest. It needs to be a reflection of your work. But there are kind of formulaic sentences that you can use, usually like the beginning. I'm very excited to contribute X and Y to your operation that specializes in A and B. So you can find these formula-like sentences to fill in your experience, and that's fine. Nobody's going to read it and say, I can tell that they probably used this sentence with someone else with different details. That's expected. What is expected is that you have changed the details for every job. And that's also why I caution you against ChatGPT, because ChatGPT will change these formulas. So instead of, I'm excited for this unique opportunity, Chat would say something like, I couldn't be more thrilled for this chance of a lifetime. What? Working somewhere is not the chance of a lifetime. So this is why you need to be very careful with AI, because it tends to elevate your language into a zone that leaves professional and enters kind of theatrical Shakespearean performance. Okay, so the do's. We did showcase relevance, we did express enthusiasm, address gaps or special circumstances. So I've definitely had people mention to me, what do I do if I took a career gap? What if I failed out of my university and I don't have my degree? Or even when I was talking about if you want to work in a job that's outside of your major, that's kind of a special circumstance. Acknowledge these, because the hiring manager will most likely notice them if there are things like not having a degree or having studied, I don't know, engineering, and now you want to work in public relations, communications. These things are very noticeable. So what I recommend that you do is take ownership of the narrative. So you acknowledge them. You don't wait for them to ask you and then you have to answer, oh yeah, I guess, yeah, no, I did a career switch. Just write about it. It can be a phrase, like the beginning of a sentence. Well, I initially pursued a very different academic path, comma, I have found myself desperately in love with marketing. And this is what I did, and this is my experience. So you're not taking 2 sentences, 3 sentences to go into like your own personal life. You're simply acknowledging there's a special circumstance here. Even when we're talking about someone just starting their career, you could view that as a special circumstance. You can treat it the same way. Although I have yet to really enter the working world, I could not imagine a better place to take that first step than at your company. So when you acknowledge the circumstance that might look different or catch their eye, it also diffuses it. It makes it less of a potential negative. It's like, this is life. This is what's happened in my life. And aren't I an interesting person? And you should ask me about it. And I'm very comfortable talking about it. That will give you the ownership back. And you can even spin these as very positive things, especially people who switched careers, or maybe someone had children, took a few years off. You can say like, the wealth of experience that I've gained, in different industries, and even working to run a family of young children, you will not believe my time management skills that I will bring to this position. All right. So don't hesitate to use this kind of experience, these special circumstances to your advantage. The last do is tailor your tone, style, and content to the job, which I'm not even going to explain because that's all I've been talking about. All right, don'ts. Don't use generic templates. It's generally just obvious. Maybe you can find a really good one, but I really recommend you can start with a template. But once you start to enter your own job experience, you will naturally have to adjust it slightly, and that's fine. Start with a template, modify it to meet your expectations, but don't stay with the template. Don't rehash your resume. Why give them two documents to read if they say exactly the same thing? It's a waste of their time. Don't exaggerate or lie. So there is that fine line between marketing yourself, like say the example I gave of the woman who's taking a few years off to stay with the kids at home and says, I'll be great at time management. I'll be great at prioritization. I've really had time to reflect on my career. I've taken online courses while I was gone. I'm coming back motivated. So she's marketing herself, but none of it is untrue. She's not saying, actually, I moved to another country and had a really fancy job and I have no kids, because maybe she's worried that that will look negative. Because honestly, even if you get the job and you're hired, it's extremely uncomfortable when those lies come to light, and they often do. And the hiring managers at these jobs, they may have ethics clauses, especially during your trial period, where they'll say, no, you were hired under unethical circumstances, or there was an outright lie. Even if they don't terminate your contract, you'll have lost a lot of trust in the process. So market yourself, but be honest. Also, you need to be careful about your tone. I don't think I haven't seen this very much, but cover letters should be relatively joyful. You're acting, it's a little bit silly, but you're basically acting like what a joy it is to apply to your company. Of course, not in that language. That's maybe the ChatGPT talking, but there's no reason to find anything, let's say defensive, let's say critical, let's say pessimistic. There's no place for that in a cover letter. We made it. It is 8:30 exactly. This is usually where we're ending, but I started late, so let's stick around for some questions. But if you guys have to go, it has been lovely having you here. I've had a wonderful time talking about cover letters, but I'm happy to do another 5 minutes here just on Q&A. So let me open up. I had a good question from Manel. So Manel is asking, how can we find the balance between showcasing our skills and experience and expressing our personality and our passion? It can be a challenge to fit everything into a concise and engaging letter while making sure it's tailored to the job, the specific job and company. Well, Manel, that is why cover letter writing is super hard. And that is why one page should feel limiting, because you are a full and complete person. Even if you don't have a ton of experience, you have a lot that you probably want to say. Even justifying why you want the job, that can take up a lot of space before you go into experience, before you go into your personality or personal characteristics. So for balance, I would say, it depends on the person. Let's imagine you have at least 1 year working experience. 50 to 75% of the letter should be about how that experience connects to the job you're applying to. Let's say 75%, because truly this is a professional document. You are demonstrating how your previous experience sets you up for success in the new role. So you're really going to focus on education and experience. That includes things like volunteering, anything that helped you build a professional skill set. The other 25% can be, I wouldn't say about personality, I would say passion for the job. That goes into why. So let's just call the 25% the why section. That's the best place to show your personality, why you want the job. Because by talking about your passion or by talking about what elements of the job most interest you, you are giving a window into your personality. Another question from Manel is how to make sure the letter is engaging and stands out. We want to avoid sounding too generic or using cliches. Yeah, this is true. I think we do want to avoid sounding generic. We do want to avoid cliches, but one thing I would say to you is try to let the content of your experience speak for itself. So don't look for interesting language to say. This is actually where a cover letter is very different from a personal statement for a university. The opening line of a personal statement could be like, gosh, I'm trying to think of a cliche. The only one I can think of is early bird gets the worm. That's not very relevant to personal statements. There's a cliche or kind of a phrase, I don't know, one of these old-fashioned phrases in English where you can say one in the hand is better than two in the bush. And you could write a personal statement. Like you could basically start these personal statements with these phrases, these mottos, these slogans, and describe them, and your personality comes out, and they're very interesting and unique. That is not the vibe of a cover letter. Don't worry about sounding too generic as long as the content of the letter, meaning your experience and your skill set and why you want the job, is unique to you. You don't need interesting vocabulary besides strong action words. And I would avoid using quotes. Please do not quote anyone in a cover letter. That is not the place for it. All right. Let's see. Miriam is asking, what if there's a large gap of several years of only freelancing and such jobs? What is the best way to fill in that gap? And would a lot of freelancing jobs have a negative effect on a CV or a cover letter? So I would not consider freelancing or having small jobs a gap. I would consider it a time that you are self-employed. You can work with this in two ways. So if it really looks like you've been changing a lot, let's say every 6 months or every 3 months, I would actually put those on your resume as one job title, and you write self-employed, freelance video editing. And then you do under each one the client or the customer that you had with the result. Because it is true that if you've done a lot of small jobs and you put them on the resume, when you look at the time, it looks like you're quitting, you're getting hired and you're quitting a lot. So you want to just be extremely clear if your resume has a lot of freelance jobs, that in fact, this was a career change for me where for a few years I was a freelancer. And yes, I had 10 clients. And isn't that super impressive? Instead of looking like you had 10 different jobs in that time. Aladeen is asking about the February 22nd workshop. So we have an in-person workshop happening in Wargla on the 22nd of February, but I believe it is being closed just for the University of Wargla. We'll have more information about that soon, but everything that we're talking about in these online classes, this is the type of content we're going to do in person. And for those of you who live near another American space, we'll be visiting Bashar, Constantine, Waharan, and Wargla. So we'll take the applying to jobs in English master classes that we're doing. We're going to take them on the road. All right, guys, I think I'm seeing a few other questions come in, but I think we're just going to call it. Maybe we'll answer one last one. Mohammed Amin says, how to answer if asked, why did you leave your last job? This is going to come up in the interview section. You shouldn't be mentioning this in a cover letter. So for the cover letter course, you don't say why you left because it's not relevant. The cover letter is connecting your experiences to the new position. You're not mentioning why you left. In an interview, you find something kind of neutral to say, and you never criticize where you came from, because what they hear is, oh, he doesn't have loyalty. When he comes here, he's going to criticize us as well. All right, you guys, I have to end there. I see more questions came in, but if you are still interested in asking them, I recommend you come to our next class. It's all about networking. It's this Thursday. It's going to be the same time. So that's 7 p.m. here on Zoom with the same link. And we're going to talk about how can you appropriately use networking skills to get job offers. Thank you so much for joining me tonight. It was really a pleasure. You were a super active group, and I'm excited to see many of you back here on Thursday. Have a good night, everyone.